The situation doesn't look good at all for a large number of U.S. retailers. New research found out that over a quarter of retailers in America could be just a few months away from going bankrupt. And many are already facing collapse due to severe supply chain disruptions that are causing shortages of consumer favorites, massive inventory gluts of products that aren't selling, and price imbalances that have been threatening their profits. According to industry insiders, we are set to see a wave of retail bankruptcies before year's end as problems continue to pile up and consumer spending keeps going down. That's what we're going to expose today. Before moving on, please give us your support with a thumbs up in this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the most important news. A new survey found that more than 25% of U.S. retailers are at risk of going broke in the next 3 months due to worsening supply chain issues. Even as the busiest shopping season of the year for retailers is right at the corner, a sharp drop in consumer spending and changing consumer habits are taking a heavy toll on their profit margins. Demand planning software Bright conducted a survey in August that found 85% of U.S. retailers have been hit by supply chain disruptions in the last year. At the same time, almost half of e-commerce retailers, including Amazon, have experienced stockouts, resulting in sales losses. The crisis is getting so critical that 26% of respondents said they were in danger of running out of cash if conditions do not improve soon, a major threat to their survival. The survey also found that shortages of highly demanded goods, including groceries, electronics, and clothes, were the biggest problem experienced by 68% of respondents. Other challenges included soaring shipping prices, suffered by 64% of firms, extended delivery times for essential products, mentioned by 54% of them, suppliers facing selling out of stock, noted by 46%, and higher costs of raw materials, affecting 40% of companies. Some of the hardest hit sectors are furniture and home furnishings, with 92% of firms experiencing difficulties getting supplies. Electronics and appliances hitting 53% of respondents, apparel and footwear 50%, and health and personal care product shortages plaguing 60% of retailers. On top of that, 28% of respondents said supply shortages or distribution issues were the biggest threat to their viability. By far the highest response, surpassing poor cash flow 18% and changing consumer habits 16%. Researchers also noted that supply chain bottlenecks have added 21% to the average retailer's costs in the last year. Around 58% have increased prices as a result, and 29% took a profit margin hit to keep prices stable, while 28% are trying to find domestic suppliers to limit the impact. Bright CEO Derek O'Carroll said, "We are in the worst supply chain crisis that any of us can remember, and there is no sign of the problems easing before the end of the year. For retailers, the problems could be particularly severe as they prepare for the fall and peak trading in the months building up to Christmas." We're still in the relatively early stages of this crisis, with the impact of the Ukraine crisis and other global factors only just starting to really hit. Retailers are going to need to plan for months of further turmoil and issues over stock levels, which can result in unhappy customers and major cash flow issues. He added that companies are now rushing to get their demand planning right and also canceling the purchase of low-selling goods, as well as cutting off their staff headcounts to be able to support business growth. All the same, it's important to be honest with customers who are well aware that we are in a global crisis and will be more tolerant of delays than they would be in less turbulent times, he continued. Very recently, several big box retailers, including the world's largest retail chain, Walmart, announced the cancellation of billions of dollars in orders, plans to hike prices of consumer favorites, and hinted that layoffs are on the horizon. A few weeks ago, customers could see signs placed on Walmart shelves asking for comprehension about stockouts of meat and fresh produce caused by, quote, supply chain problems beyond our control, the company said. According to CNBC, the entire U.S. retail industry is set to face a massive wave of bankruptcies this year following a months-long slowdown in restructuring activity. Industry insiders are warning about an increase in the number of distressed retailers as ballooning prices dent demand for certain goods, stores contend with bloated inventory levels, and a recession looms, it reported. In the second quarter, 90-year-old cosmetics giant Revlon filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, leaving customers surprised. Retail is in flux, highlighted Perry Mandarino, co-head of investment banking and head of corporate restructuring at B. Riley Securities. And within the next 5 years, the landscape will be much different than it is today. The retail sector has faced a significant decline in restructurings last year as the fiscal stimulus that provided cash infusions to businesses and stimulus dollars to consumers managed to bring a brief sense of stability. But by early 2022, the flood of distress that was last seen in 2020 when dozens of retailers, including JCPenney, Brooks Brothers, J. Crew, and Neiman Marcus headed to bankruptcy court, started to go back up again. In addition to Revlon's filing in July, there have been 4 other big retail bankruptcies since then, according to data from the S&P Global Market Intelligence, and according to an analysis released by CB Insight, 139 retailers, big and small, have already gone bankrupt. Amongst them, the women's apparel brand Escada America filed for bankruptcy. Executives say that the brand had been struggling with a myriad of issues in the years prior. Escada America was born out of the previous bankruptcy of Escada USA in 2009, and the global Escada organization grappled with overexpansion, deficient leadership, and overpriced leases in the years that followed, they noted. Similarly, apparel retailer Missguided was sued for not paying orders and went bankrupt following the lawsuit. While the online fashion company initially experienced great success, capitalizing on the rise of fast fashion, increased supply chain costs and inflation hampered its continued growth, experts explained. At this point, restructuring experts say they're preparing for more trouble across the industry as the all-important holiday season approaches. A new analysis by Fitch Ratings found that the consumer and retail companies facing the highest risk of default include mattress maker Serta Simmons, cosmetics line Anastasia Beverly Hills, skincare marketing company Rodan & Fields, Billabong owner Boardriders, men's suit chain Men's Warehouse, and supplements marketing company Isogenics International. We have potentially a perfect storm brewing, stressed Sally Henry, a professor of law at Texas Tech Law School and former partner at Skadden, Arp, Slate, Meagher & Flom LLP. I wouldn't be surprised to see an uptick in retail bankruptcies. What you saw in 2020 was a tremendous amount of restructuring activity getting pulled forward, continued Spencer Ware, managing director and retail practice leader at Riveron, an advisory firm. Then we got through 2020 through to today with a tremendous amount of stimulus. What's going to happen now? It's a bit of a mixed bag. Rapidly shifting consumer behavior could complicate things even more. Low-income Americans have been particularly hard hit by inflation, and even wealthier consumers are spending less on luxury goods. We're at a moment now where predicting what will happen next is far more complicated, Steve Zellin, partner and global head of the Restructuring and Special Situations Group at PJT Partners, emphasized during an interview with CNBC, there are many more variables. The latest retail sales data exposes that consumer spending fell 3% in August compared to a year prior, the Commerce Department reported last week. Consumers aren't just buying less stuff, they're shopping less, which means a loss of the impulse shopping moments that are critical to retail growth, explained Marshall Cohen, Chief Retail Industry Advisor at NPD Group, a market research firm. In the previous 2 quarters, consumers bought 6% fewer items at retail than they did in the first semester of 2021, NPD Group reported. Right now, more than 8 in 10 U.S. consumers said they plan to make further changes to pull back on their spending in the next 3 to 6 months, the firm revealed. To make things worse, rising interest rates are aggravating retailers' problems with debt. After hitting the highest level since the 2008 financial crisis, higher interest rates mean that distressed retailers will find it more difficult to pay off their increasing debt burden. Riverons where exposed businesses are racing to get in front of future rate increases, with some buying back their debt or attempting to push out maturities. For instance, department store chain Macy's said it completed refinancing $850 million in bonds that were coming due in the next 2 years. Ware noticed that refinancing activity over the past 12 months has begun to slow, with a bigger number of deals getting canceled or pulled. It seems the window is closing for more difficult refinancing, he said. As has always been the case, retailers that are grappling with the heaviest debt loads are gonna be the most vulnerable to bankruptcy, said David Berliner, chief of BDO's business restructuring and turnaround practice. More financial problems could start to appear this fall, he added, after families return from long-awaited summer vacations and may be forced to tighten their belts. According to UBS, only a third of consumers said they planned to spend more money on the back-to-school season this year relative to the prior year, down 17% from the number of people who said the same in 2021. Consumers are getting more stingy with their wallets, Berliner continued. They're going to be winners and losers, like we always see. I'm just not sure yet how soon it's going to happen. The expert also said he's been keeping a close eye on consumer debt levels, which are nearing all-time highs. Consumers have been willing to spend on credit cards, on mortgages, and on buy now, pay later programs. I'm afraid a lot of consumers are going to be tapping out their credit cards and they're going to be forced into an abrupt pullback, he outlined. If consumer spending slowed in that way, more retailers could be pushed into bankruptcy at a faster pace, Berliner said. But if spending stays at a reasonable clip and consumers are able to reasonably pay off their debts, companies will instead share a little bit of the pain with fewer bankruptcy filings, he argues. Either way, the executive highlights that the distress will be far greater among smaller retail businesses, particularly mom-and-pop shops that don't have as many resources to weather harder times. Retailers from Gap to Abercrombie & Fitch to Kohl's have said in recent weeks that they have too much stuff after shipments arrived late and consumers abruptly changed what they were shopping for. Target said earlier this month it's planning markdowns and canceling some orders to try to get rid of unwanted merchandise, CNBC reported. As other retailers follow similar measures, profits are set to take a deep dive in the near term, warned Joseph Malfitano, founder of turnaround and restructuring firm Malfitano Partners. And when a retailer's profit margins shrink as its inventories are reappraised, routine practice in the industry, those inventories won't be worth as much. A company's borrowing base could fall as a result, he explained. Some retailers have been able to cancel orders so not create more of a bubble on inventory, but a lot of retailers can't cancel those orders, so if the retailers that can't cancel orders don't knock it out the park during the holiday season, their margins are going to go way down. You're going to have more problems in 2023, he added. It's a buyer's market, Mandarino said. Growth will not come organically when consumer spending goes down as we go into a recession. I don't see a big holiday spending season. I think people are going to really tighten up and buckle down. Inflation is not going anywhere, the expert concluded. All of this means that the upcoming holiday season may not be an opportunity for retailers to break even on profits, but actually mark a make or break moment for companies that are already struggling to survive. Another chapter of the retail apocalypse is unfolding right as we speak, and all evidence shows that disaster is on the horizon. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. We look forward to reading your comments under this video.